Hello everyone. In this video, I'm gonna present the presentation I did for a philosophy group in Nicosia, and it's called the Decoding the Meaning of Language. And it was for a philosophy group because this is a chapter from my latest book, The Philosophical One. So first of all, what is language? If we define it, language can be anything written, any spoken words, sign languages, no non-verbal communication, part of language, symbols and signs, but also goes straight to ads and marketing. Anything we receive information from others, it's part of language. So let's get deeper. Each language is an agreed upon system of spoken and non spoken words that users can use specific words or symbolic representations of them to transmit something meaningful to each other. As I said, it's something either we that we receive some way or another, either from hearing or by seeing, and we receive a message, something from someone else. And there are rules of writing and speaking that dictate that the message, what we perceive from that in each language. Each language has different rules, so we know what exactly each word or phrase or sentence means. Let's take father as an example. A simple example as a word as an example that can be found in any language and is similar. For example, papa for Spanish, Italian, in Latin languages more or less. In Greek, we have baba in Chinese, which is similar again. Russia. So there are similarities for this word. The same with mama. Can be found almost identical to many languages because these are easy syllables that even the babies, as soon as they start speaking, those are the first things that they start saying. So it's similar for every one of us. Now let's take an example that has differences. Malagas. If you are a Greek speaker or you know Greek, you know what that means. It can have a bad connotation or a good one. Depends on how you use it. It's a versatile word. It has a lot of meanings, but in general, the main translation is wanker in English. But you can say it to your friend as a friendly thing, or as you can see here in this list, you can use it for a lot of things. So it's something that we say a lot in Greek. It's like fucking for English. And I like the last one, what politicians say, bullshit basically. But did you know that Malaga in Baybayin, which is the ancient Filipino writing script, it means completely different thing. There is a word there too, which means strong or mighty. That's the written word in with the ancient Filipino writing, and actually that's what it means. I learned it because I trained for years in Filipino martial arts, and at some point, another teacher from elsewhere posted a picture of him wearing a cap, a hat, and on it he said Malagas. And we were wondering because we are Greek speakers, why did he wear this hat when we saw it? But then we found out that in Filipino, Malaga means strong. So he knew that word from his practice basically. So there are words that might be similar and have different meaning. So watch out to who you are saying these words. Now let's go even deeper. Let's look at literary theory. Literary theory started with the Russian formalists in the 1910 to 1930s, in Russia, of course. And basically, these guys analyzed the text form and the devices used in it. the symbols, the metaphors, and they ignored the author's influence or the background of the author was basically. Yeah, they tried to analyze what it was being used within the text to find out the meaning behind it. Then a new movement came, new criticism was called, the 1920s up to the 1940s, which was in the USA and the UK. Those guys paid attention to close reading of the text overall meaning. So they took the whole part together because the Russians took specific parts. They analyzed specific symbols and metaphors and so on. New criticism guys took the whole text and how they are connecting the whole pattern within the text to get the general meaning. But again, they were analyzing the text. Then the reader response movement in the US and the Germany in the 1960s up to the 1970s, they put emphasis on the reader's reading experience. So basically, they took into account the reader's background. So if the reader was female or male, or if she or he or was coming from the west or the east, if they were rich or poor. So they took into account their background, the one that was reading. So you add different layers from your background when you are reading. From that's what they were looking for. And based on that, the famous critic Roland Barthes, we'll talk about him later on, video critic. He wrote an article in 1967, The Death of the Author. Basically, he was saying that at that point, it's like the author was not involved in the text. You are not considering the background of the author, where he was coming from, if he went through wars or he was poor or something. He wrote what he wrote, the book that you are reading from that author. You look at the text, basically, what the text is giving you and your own background as a reader. So the author is not involved anymore. The analysis of the signs started in the 1910s. And basically, what we mean with signs, we mean it involves words, images, symbols, gestures, objects, and actions. All these can be included into signs that they give us a meaning within language. And the analysis of that came from two guys. Semiotics by Charles Sanders Peirce, which had more philosophical logic background in his way of analyzing, and some Semiology by Ferdinand de Saussure, which he created the so-called Structuralism. And more guys were influenced by de Saussure Structuralism. We'll talk about them. And basically, his main idea was that he said that there were the signifiers, which are the words or the physical objects, and they signified the concept or the idea within our heads of that thing. Let's take the flower, for example. The physical thing, the flower that we can take with our hands, that's the signifier. And the signified is the idea in our heads that that's a flower and is not a ball, let's say, for example. So we have these two things to get the idea within our heads. And that creates the structures of our language. So as we said, Saussure's influence a lot of disciplines and people within their fields. One of those was Claude Levi-Strauss, the social anthropologist, who created the so-called structural anthropology, where he connected the cultures, kinships, and mythologies. So he found out from analyzing the various cultures, the structures underneath them that created their cultures, the kinships, and their mythologies, the myths, where because everything was connected. Psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan introduced structuralism into Freudian theory to interpret the unconscious. He was uh, following the Freudian lineage, but he included the structuralism to analyzed it better. As we said, media and cultural critic Roland Barthes from before. He examined pop culture and how it shapes our reality using the Marxist perspectives. He analyzed various things from music to events to articles and so on at his time, and how this create our reality. Historian and philosopher Michel Foucault traced through history how institutions repress people using power. He analyzed mostly prisons, hospitals, and schools. And basically, he saw that there were the ones that were repressing the guards, the teachers, so on, repressing the patients and the students and so on, using power. So he analyzed those structures. Feminist psychoanalyst Julia Kristeva's work influenced the feminist movement. She was one of the feminists that started the second wave, if I'm not mistaken, and she included structuralism inside. Philosopher Jacques Derrida created the method of deconstruction. He was a very famous uh, de- deconstructionist, basically, post-structuralist, because he was trying to analyze how the structures of language are creating the meaning, and then he destroyed that to analyze them from their base, to analyze each word, what it mean, and how we create our reality through text. As we said, from that came post-structuralism. Derrida was the one that started this movement by destroying the structures of language, basically. And the people that follow this movement, they rejected grand narratives and socially created norms by deconstructing the structures underlying the areas they studied. These people were Derrida, Barthes, and Foucault. As we said, Derrida analyzed the text, Barthes various media, and Foucault the power structures within society. That's Foucault. And then we move to colonialism and post-colonialism. That movement seeks to understand how a colonizer restricts and reshapes the mind of the colonized, primarily through language, which in turn defines their culture and identity. The one who started this movement was the literary critic and political activist Edward Said with his book Orientalism. In this one, he critically analyzed how the West depicted wrongly the East. So he was trying to analyze the way the Western people tried to analyze the East and the Middle East and so on, because he was coming from that side. And he tried to show them that that was wrong, how they are changing their culture, their identity. Another author, Mingi Kyung, in his book Decolonizing the Mind, advocated the revival of native languages because Africans, he was from Africa, because Africans are losing their culture, identity, values, and history by adopting the language of their European colonizers. He understood that through the language, we change our way of thinking and our identity, our culture. And he tried to change his fellow Africans, their mentality of that, to stop using the European language and use their own languages and go back to their values and cultures. Now I'm gonna show you a small clip, a small part of this talk. It's a great talk. You can watch it if you want all of it. I suggest you do that. But for now, just 5 minutes to understand the main point that we need. Okay, go watch this. She gives a lot of examples of how languages change our mentality, the way we think, our lifestyles and cultures. And that's what she meant language diversity. That the more languages we know, the more the different ways we can think. And because language changes our minds, how we think. and how we interpret the world. Now, I will give you also a story from my life. In my previous job, my manager was Belarusian, and at some point, one day he told us because in the department were only Cypriots and Greeks, and one time he told us that when he came to Cyprus, because he lived for a few years now, but now he understands culture, our culture. But when he came, he didn't understand why everyone was so friendly with him, smiling at him as soon as they met him. And he found that weird. And I was like, why did you think that? He said, back in, and basically people that grew up in ex-Soviet Union countries, and Belarus was one of those, of course, where he grew up. They learn to not trust someone that smiles at you from the first moment. If you don't know him, you don't have that intimate relationship, and he smiles at you, it means he wants something from you. He wants to trick you. So he found that weird that everyone here was like that, but then found out that our culture and other European cultures, that's the way they operate. And as soon as he said that, it's like he clicked something in my head. But like, yeah, I also met a lot of Russians, Belarusians, and so on people that at some point when I met them, I was smiling at them and they were like, they looked like cold. They no smiling or anything. And I found that weird. It's like, did I do something to you? And then when he said that, we're like, oh, now that makes sense. So you can see that by the way that someone talks, the language, or the culture that someone comes, the way he acts in the world and communicates is different. So we have to have that in mind when we communicate with others. So my question to you is, which lenses are you using? Write me down in the comments. Structuralist or post-structuralist, trying to figure out the structures of the world around you. Cultural critic, are you analyzing the cultures that you are experiencing? Media or literary critic, books, videos, music, and movies, and so on. Are you a feminist, analyzing through the power struggles of women in the world? Or Marxist, terms in class struggle? Colonial or post-colonial? Are you coming from a colonial country and you are looking at that through those lenses? Or a mixture, combination of all those above? Think about it, where you are coming from, your background, your culture, and what language you are using. That's a presentation for today. That comes from my book, What Are These Wandering Thoughts? That's my latest book, the philosophy one. If you want to get it, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, social media, and text me. You can find my other books also on Goodreads to find out what others are saying about them and rate or review them if you have read any. That will help. Thank you very much. I have Medium, I have articles on Medium for free to watch. YouTube videos like this one. In the video lectures, you find more of these if you like this video. And for the Greek speakers, I have also a podcast that is more, it's about philosophical and cultural ideas. If you like this video, share it with the person that you think that they will like it. Give it a like, subscribe to the channel for more like this. I give various talks and then upload them here for anyone to watch them in case you couldn't make it. I hope you liked it and thank you for your attention.